excited about today's DIY. I was so intimidated to do this, and it turned out to be so much easier than I thought and look even better than I hoped. First of all, if you're new, welcome. You picked a fantastic day to be here. I'm so glad to have you. My name is Orly, and this is the DIY Designer. I'm obsessed with DIY fashion and home decor, and really it's because I'm obsessed with personal style. I think that everyone's style should be a real representation of who they are, and so DIY is just like the best way to do that. So here's the deal. I had a wedding coming up. Actually, if you're watching this on Sunday, the wedding was last night. So you can go to my Instagram stories and see some like BTS of the wedding and the dress and all the things. So anywho, if you've watched any of my other like sequin dress videos, you know that most of the time they're either totally no-sew or they require very little sewing and there's a lot of like belting to hold it in place or like wrapping, things like that. I wanted something that was a little more legit. All right, you guys, I'm attempting to make a sequin dress for a wedding that I have this weekend in one day. So I went downtown yesterday to buy all of the fabric that I needed. This store has the most incredible sequin everything fabric. I did actually have him cut me 9 yards of this, but it is going to be for a backdrop for an Access Hollywood segment I have. I'm doing an Elvis premiere party. Anywho, so there's like a million and it was really, really hard to decide. I was there for like an hour, but when I went outside, right beyond this tinsel fringe, I saw this. You guys, this is velvet with sequins on it. It creates such a cool texture. So I had him cut me 2 yards of this. I'm like super into the sort of rings and the cutouts and something that feels kind of like summery and laid back, but in an epic sequin fabric. So I bought this pink fabric also, and I absolutely love it. I will definitely use it at some point, but for this dress, man, it's gotta be the green. It sparkles, it's so gorgeous. And this is sort of what my inspo is. This is the kind of version that I'm planning on making. Pointed at the neck, to come down like this, tie in the back, and then back down into a V in the front, which would connect to another V. Take your measurement. So I started here right at the neck, and I wrapped around to the back of my body where I felt like I wanted the strap to end. Remember, it's stretch. I wanted it to like stretch to here. It was 15 inches. So it's 15 going this way. Then I measured here. What do I want going this way? And it was right about there. That is 14 inches. It's going to be 15 by 15, and then I'm gonna measure from the point down to 14 and connect these two lines. This right here is 15 and 15. Then I plot that length. All I have to do is connect those. I know what this is and what this is and what my length is, and so automatically what I have to do is connect those lines. First thing, I'm gonna cut off the velvet trim, which I will save for my straps later, and now it's time to cut this sort of diamond shape in the top. This is the location that we're gonna cut it in the fabric and where it is on our actual pattern. You wanna make sure to fold your fabric in half, that way everything that you're cutting is perfectly symmetrical. Again, I'm not making a pattern, I'm literally just plotting and cutting directly on the fabric. This is that 15-inch point, right? The two sides. Now on the fold is that center point, which is our length. Now, remember we just connect the two lines. So I'm gonna cut connecting that center front line to my 15-inch points in the back, create a tiny slope, that way it has a little bit of a point, and here you go. It doesn't look like much and it isn't quite as angled as I wanted. You can see I pinned it on the dress form. It's kind of there. I grabbed a cuff to loop my fabric through the ring and pin it in place. If you were gonna do the ring, you would sew that closed. But after I looked at it, I'm like, it's just not exaggerated enough. So I folded my fabric in half and tried to kind of exaggerate that shape a little bit. Now, here's my skirt. First thing you're gonna do is fold it in half at your widest point to make sure that you have enough. Then you are going to cut the shape on the front. I'm gonna show this again so I can explain it clearly. Our fabric is folded in half with the fold on the right. In the back here where I'm cutting, this is my center back. So I'm kind of straight. As I start to reach my hip bones, I start to curve up, coming up towards my belly button so that I have that pointed shape in the center front. Now, the waist is my smallest point. So I measure my smallest point, which I think for me from center front all the way around was like 19 inches. And I'm gonna cut and sort of gradually go back into the rest of the skirt. It was a little too straight after I tried it on, so I exaggerated that shape, cutting the waist even smaller and giving myself a little pot for the booty. Now I grabbed the fabric and I'm looping that center front little point that I created through the same ring in the center front, wrapping it around, and I'm just gonna pin the back to get a sense of whether it works. I looked in the mirror and I was like, I think we have something here. The way that I have the pattern currently is like this. It looks sort of straight. I don't really want to make this more angled because I feel like that's kind of cheesy, like to go really low. I'm a grown woman, that doesn't feel right. So I'm thinking, what if I shave it from right here? Like I do that. Floor length this so pretty because this fabric is epic and I could wear it to like a red carpet or a freaking gala, but is this length maybe more appropriate for this type of event? And now that I'm looking at it from afar, I should close it, huh? I should close it for sure. I'm gonna sew those two things together. So I put it back on my dress form to figure out exactly where and how I want to connect the two pieces to create the most flattering sort of diamond shape. When you're ready, you're gonna take the top, lay it flat, face to face, sequins to sequins. You'll pin the two pieces together and sew straight across. And it would be something like this. I end up adjusting my top and this is the new shape. So here are the changes. Number one, I flattened out all of my top and my sides because these are gonna fold over to become the casings for our drawstring and they don't need to be pointed. Secondly, I angled this much more. So it's not curved, it's much more of a diamond shape. And lastly, I made two little notches in the skirt that fit each other. So if you are a beginner sewer and you wanna do the absolute most basic, this is what you're gonna do. Number one, you're gonna fold down the top, the left and the right, fold it down and tack it so that your drawstring can go through the top, through the side, and down, and lace up. Secondly, you are going to attach these two pieces, simple stitch straight across. And lastly, the back center seam together, zigzag closed. I would zigzag the whole thing. Now, I am gonna line it. This is not something I normally do, and this is what I was so excited. It was so much easier than I thought. You're literally taking the pattern that you've created and making a second version in your liner fabric. You're gonna cut it out pretty much identical. If anything, you're gonna go a tiny bit smaller than your sequin. Face to face and pin them together. I'm leaving the bottom part, the little V, opened because that way I can flip it inside out. Do the identical thing with your skirt. Lay your skirt down, cut out a piece, and now you are just going to sew them together face to face. I'm using a zigzag stitch going all the way around, making sure again to leave open the little point on the bottom, that way I can flip it inside out. Now, when I flip it inside out, not only is it lined and it's clean finished, but I don't have like a seam edge because I don't have a stitch going through the sequins. So it's just perfectly clean finished and lined all at the same time. We're gonna do the same thing with the skirt. I sewed both skirts closed in the back, and now I'm putting them inside each other so that I can just sew the top all the way around. That's the only part that I need to sew all the way around the top. And now look, when I flip it inside out, the two skirts are separate, which is gonna allow them to move and be much more comfortable, but the top is perfectly clean finished. So I have a clean finished top and a clean finished bottom. Now we're gonna finish it off. I'm gonna sew over these tabs. These are the little tabs so that our drawstring can go all the way through them. I decided to do hand stitching. That way, again, I don't have a like sort of indentation from my seam, but you can see the sequins are there and that will be very uncomfortable. So you wanna make sure that in this center seam where I've attached my top to my bottom and all of the little fold overs that you remove the sequins. So see, I attached it at the waist and you can see the top here, it's just velvet now. So it's super soft. I removed all of the sequins, removed all of the sequins, removed all of the sequins, and in the center here, I have a perfectly lined dress that I'm gonna show you right now.